What do you do with an abundance of pears and you are the only one in your family that truly enjoys them? Well, let me show you what I came up with. I scoured the internet, and what I decided would work best for us is a chutney. I also made sure it was things that I had on hand. I didn't have to go out and buy anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to set in on these pears. We're going to get them peeled, chopped. I'm going to discard any of the yucky parts off of them, and we can feed those to the chickens. They don't mind. And any of the good parts, the cores and some of the peels, I'm going to place right here in a jar of water to keep them from turning brown. And we're going to work through these pears and get them diced up in small pieces, and then we'll get started on our chutney. I absolutely cannot stand to see food go to waste. I did can some in some pints for treats for the dogs, and I canned some for me. That's a diced spice pear. I'll link the video where I got the recipe for those in the description. They actually turned out really nice, and I will enjoy those. My family will not, but I will. Let's get started on this chutney. I sort of combined a couple recipes according to what I had on hand and what I thought we would like, and I changed it up a little bit. This recipe called for some apples, and I did double this recipe, but it called for a cup of apple. It called for candied ginger. I didn't have candied ginger, but I had some fresh ginger. So that's what this is here, and I'm going to chop that up. Just dice it in fine pieces and put that in. It called for red bell pepper. I had some frozen, onion, salt, mustard seeds, red pepper flakes, and some ground clove. It called for whole cloves, but we're not a huge fan of a strong clove flavor, so I went with just some ground clove and the zest from a lemon and the juice from the lemons. And some nutmeg. I love to grate my own fresh nutmeg. Smells wonderful. Some apple cider vinegar and the brown sugar. And it looks pretty full, but as it cooks down, there'll be plenty of room. And then I added my raisin dried fruit mixture. And we'll let that simmer. And we'll just let it cook down and thicken up. It took a little while. It took about an hour or so. But just keep stirring. And you'll see it cook down. You can tell by the edge of the pot how far it cooks down. And it will thicken up. Get it to that good rolling boil. It will thicken up when you can it. I have my jars are hot because my chutney is hot. You always want to do hot jars, hot liquid, cold jars. So I'm going to get these filled up to about a 1/4 inch of headspace. Now I'm I'm a messy filler. Here I'm just making sure there's no air bubbles. And then I'm going to wipe off the lids. I use a little bit of water and white distilled vinegar on my cloth and just get them cleaned up real good because I tend to get it everywhere and make a mess. Then we're going to put on our lids, and then we're going to put on our rings. The rings you can reuse over and over, so some of them aren't pretty, but they work just fine. They do the job. And we're going to water bath these at a rolling boil for 10 minutes. And that's it. Chutneys are good on crackers, bread, Indian dishes. My favorite way is to just open the jar, pour it on some pork, and bake it. Turns out fabulous. Now we're going to do something super cool and super easy. We are going to make vinegar with the pear scraps, or the peelings and the cores. We're just going to take filtered water, a little bit of sugar. I'll put the measurements up here in a second. And we're going to cover those completely with water, and we're going to top it off with just a splash of apple cider vinegar with the mother. The mother is the natural bacteria and enzymes in there that will kickstart the fermentation process. I'm going to place this in a warm spot on the kitchen counter so that it's in my line of vision so I won't forget about it. And I'm going to stir it daily for a few days. And after a few days, the fruit will start to settle down below the water line. And you'll be able to tell, and you can quit stirring. You won't have to fool with it. And then you just let it sit for a couple weeks. I'll link some good videos if you're interested in learning to make vinegar. I'll link some good videos in the description, and I will be coming out with a more detailed video here in the near future. We're going to cover these with, I use coffee filters. You could use fabric or a tea towel, and you could secure these with a rubber band. I just place these lids on top. I do not screw it down. You don't want it airtight, and that way I can get in and access them easily to stir every day, and then they can still breathe. This is a vinegar I made with some starfruit and some flowers that I will use for cleaning. And here you can see a few months later the vinegar after it's been strained once, and that white thing on the top is the mother that is forming. I need to strain that again, and then in another month or two we'll have some fabulous vinegar. My name is Loanna, and this is Little Bit of Homestead, and I thank you so much for hanging out with me.